Hey everybody, this is Reviewable with Micah and Braden. What are we talking about this week?
So this is going to be a light week. We're finally at the point where we can freely feel like we can watch things again.
Oh, because we were so backlogged.
Right. Because of the holidays, we watched like everything.
I feel like we've been saying this for like 3 weeks, but it's actually true this time.
Yeah. No, yeah, we're finally free. We watched the movie that we watched. We technically finished last week, but it's still pretty fresh in our minds. Let's just get into it. It's Margin Call. This movie came out in 2011, and it's about the 2008 housing crisis. Although it's not overtly stated that that's really what it's about. You just kind of have to know
Yeah,
based on certain things that happen in the movie. And then also, if you've seen The Big Short, you'll recognize some of the
language.
douchebag corporate lingo
Yeah.
that they have. Like you'll recognize the word tranches, you'll recognize the words triple B rated, that kind of thing. And you're like, oh, these are mortgages. These are mortgage bonds. This is The Big Short, but it's from the perspective of
One of the firms that was buying all of these
yeah.
mortgages, I think, and then packaging them up and reselling them, right?
Yes, it's not exactly sure if they packaged them or if they bought them packaged. I think they bought them packaged.
Well, they said that they reorganized them.
Is it really?
Yeah, they said that during the movie. So maybe they're buying packages and reorganizing them and then
Yeah,
selling a new package.
CDOs, the word just came back to me, collateralized debt obligation. So it's it's the thing from the Jenga tower that he makes when
In The
he
Big Short?
yeah, in The Big Short where he's like this is when the mortgage companies get a bunch of B's, triple B's, and double
Right.
B's and bundle them together, and then all of a sudden the whole thing is magically considered diversified. And then the horrors at the rating agencies give it a 92, 93% A rating, no questions asked.
Yeah, this movie definitely made me want to watch The Big Short.
Yeah. I think The Big Short will do a much, much better job at explaining what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
First of all, this is really more about
I think ethics.
the ethics and the drama
It's a different perspective also.
of what goes on in these firms and how it affects the workers and how they feel about it and what they think about it, the people that work at these firms, because it's easy to just think of these firms as the devil because they kind of bankrupted the world for a while,
Yeah.
and it's easy to think of them as like a faceless evil
Entity.
Lucifer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these people are still people,
And it's complicated.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and yeah, like Braden said, like it definitely gives a face to the
So
devil, in some way, ish.
oh, Lucifer, so happy to put a face to the
Kevin
name.
Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, so happy to put a face to the name. Yeah, so spoiler alert, I guess. You should have said spoiler warning.
Oh, sorry.
Kevin Spacey's in this.
Wait,
Yep.
are you surprised at how quickly this movie came out?
What are you talking about?
The housing crash happened in 2008. This
Oh,
came out in 2011.
when was I think The Big Short was the same year, wasn't it?
That's crazy to me. To
That's 3 years. But this is also like a very this is the second time I've seen this movie in my life, and this time it really struck me that this feels like a play more than a film,
Why
almost.
do you say that?
It basically all takes place in an office.
In a couple of rooms.
Right. It's not exactly cinematic, let's say. Like there's a couple of scenes where they're driving around New York.
Or they're on the roof.
Right. There's a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Mostly it's a lot of meetings in offices and intense conversations and veiled threats and,
A lot of dialogue.
innuendo and yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But it's really good.
Yeah.
I do really like this movie. There's a reason I was okay watching it a second time.
Well, we haven't seen this in years, though, also.
Right. Oh, wait, you've seen it before too?
Yeah, we watched it together.
Oh, then I've seen this 3 times
Okay.
because I remember showing it to you because I'd seen it before.
Okay, let's go through some of the cast.
Sure.
So, Kevin Spacey is in this.
Yep.
He plays the manager of.
The sales team, the
Yeah.
sales manager, basically.
Is he famous?
The traders. Jeremy Irons?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't think of what he was in. Let's see.
Well, for one, he's Scar from The Lion King.
Oh, I had no idea.
For two, I mean, he's just been around forever. Like
Oh, he's in House of Gucci,
yeah, he's in that. He's in the Batman movies. He played Alfred for a little bit.
Justice League,
He's
apparently.
he's a big British guy, big British guy,
Okay.
skinny British guy, always well dressed, has a deep voice. He's Scar from The Lion King. So remember Scar's voice? That's Jeremy Irons. So he plays the CEO of the company,
Yeah, the big boss.
maybe even the founder. I don't know.
He's the guy in charge of the company. He's the one that takes the financial fall for this. Pretty sure.
Right, yeah, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany.
Which you might remember from A Naked Butt
A
in
Knight's
A
Tale.
Knight's Tale.
You might remember Paul Bettany's naked butt.
Yeah.
Most people will probably know him as Vision from the Marvel movies
Uh,
slash Jarvis.
oh, he's also the voice?
Yeah, that's
Oh, I
him.
didn't know that.
So he plays the another sales manager, but not like the manager of all the sales
He's probably
team.
like a team lead
Yeah, like
equivalent,
yeah,
probably.
he's their best trader.
Yeah.
So he does the grunt work and he also kind of manages some of the other people. And then
We got Zachary
Quinto.
Quinto. And then we've got Stanley Tucci.
Zachary Quinto was Spock, by the way,
Yeah.
and he plays Pete Sullivan.
In this movie. And he's the one that finishes an analysis of company stuff that figures out that the housing market is going to crash.
Yeah,
And then we have Stanley Tucci, who plays a boss that had just gotten let go. Whatever.
he's
He's the one that started the analysis and then gave it off
yeah
to Peter.
he's Peter's former boss,
Yeah.
a risk assessment guy. And then you've got Demi Moore.
I think it's Demi.
I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
Anyways, you have Demi Moore, and you have Demi Moore,
You
and
have Dime more.
you have Dime Moore, and she's.
I think she's
It's sort
also
of
risk
unclear. She,
assessment,
yeah, it seemed like she was. It seemed
but
like she was a
way high up.
higher up, like maybe risk executive for the company or something like it. And then you've got Simon Baker, who you may recognize from Devil Wears Prada, but also The Mentalist. And
And just being an overall handsome man.
right, I think he's just sort of like a vague high up executive. I don't really know what his job is, but he's important.
Yeah.
He may be like the number two guy at the company.
Yeah, just heartless and cutthroat.
And then you've got Penn Badgley,
He's
Gossip,
from Gossip Girl,
and
You.
you, and then he was also Dahmer, I think.
But those are the main people that we're dealing with.
But I mean, come on, like
That's
that's a
a really good cast.
stacked
Yeah.
cast, crazy cast. So it's very well acted. That should go without saying. It's well written because it was able to attract all these actors in the first place.
Yeah.
Sort of goes without saying, but that's more of a an extrapolate sort of tidbit that you could guess. I will say that I could see people being bored by this movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
I personally, especially the first time I saw it, was kind of riveted.
I remember we were watching it this time, and I was kind of just surface level watching this, I would say, because I was enjoying the dialogue, I was enjoying the acting, the actors themselves. Like, it is, I was just enjoying all of it and not really critically thinking about what was going on. And Braden started asking questions like, well, what were some of the questions that you asked during this movie?
I wanted to understand how exactly, because what Peter discovers is that they have basically a bunch of CDOs on their books that are about to be worthless, and
They've already
the one of the things that they say early on in the movie is the projected losses of holding these on our books is greater than the value of the entire company.
of their floor, of just their floor.
Yeah, and that's just their sales floor.
So the
That
rest of the
that's
company, which is
that's how many CDOs that one sales floor has, and the losses just from that floor are going to supersede the entire cash value of the company.
and they make comments about because at the beginning of the movie, I think they said 80 to 85% of their office had been let go
Right.
worldwide. And so they named off a bunch of really big cities throughout the world. And so for them to say that their sales floor could bankrupt this entire company
Yeah.
that's worldwide is wild.
It's crazy that I mean, they do allude to some people having sort of seen the signs in some way, because Demi Moore makes a comment about, if we'd done what I'd said a year ago, then
I
we wouldn't be in this position. And Kevin Spacey makes a comment, his character makes a comment like that. So it's weird to think that this was a total shock to them. You know what I mean? Like they were feeling the effects of it for a long time, obviously, because they had to fire so many people.
Well,
And
it sounded like that was like a routine thing,
what do you mean?
firing people.
I don't think so, because like it was everyone was gone from the
Well,
floor.
and then with the Demi Moore comment, I was under the impression that she just advised against what they were doing, and nobody listened to her because high risk, high reward is what they were going for.
Right. I mean, they explain it in The Big Short that owning CDOs was an extremely lucrative way to, to make money. It was extremely lucrative. And then, like, watch The Big Short. I think that does an incredible job of dumbing down what exactly happened during the 2008 crisis in a really entertaining and funny way.
That doesn't make you feel like an idiot at all.
Right. And it's like, it's really, really helpful. But basically, CDOs were extremely profitable. And then you had this thing called a synthetic CDO, which was basically everybody making bets for or against what was in the CDOs, and you were able to package all those bets together into another CDO. That's why it's called a synthetic CDO. It's very profitable, but like it's built on a fucking bed of kindling, and there's a drunk toddler running around the kindling with a match. It's just a disaster waiting to happen, basically. They're being extremely reckless, and all of these banks, everyone was doing this. Everyone was buying these, everyone was selling them. So everyone was super, super exposed when the people weren't paying their mortgages. The bonds, which are made up of mortgages, became absolutely worthless, and lost a lot of people a lot of money and crashed the market. But everybody was super exposed. Anyway, these guys figure out, basically, I don't know, a couple of days, a week or so before everybody else. What do they decide? Well, should we talk about that? I don't know.
That one, no.
Yeah, it's
But
it's about them discovering it, them having a oh shit
yeah,
moment.
everybody poops their pants.
Right. Oh, I think the whole point of this was you were asking what kind of question I was asking.
Yeah,
The only question I can remember asking right now was, how does it work exactly? Like, how is this going to bankrupt their company? So let's say that they buy a CDO for $100,
yeah.
easier numbers to work with, and they're expecting it to, like, it is the thing that they expect it to bring them $300 over time or something like that, just based on people paying their mortgages. Is that how they're expecting to make money on it, or are they expecting to resell it for more
$150 or
for more later on?
well, they
And
say that they only keep these for a month.
okay, so they must be reselling them,
They
like,
have to, yeah.
at a markup. So why is anyone buying them at a markup like that?
I think it's just the potential of what it could be.
Which comes from the mortgage payments?
Yeah, see, I don't remember, but with Braden asking some of these questions, it just made me start critically thinking during this movie. Was the whole point of that whole thing, which
If
is hard to do when you're in the middle of the movie and you're not going to look stuff up and all that.
if anyone is 6'4", works in finance, could you please tell us what exactly the nature of the
Did you see that video?
No, I've just seen the memes.
Oh, blue eyes.
Yeah, blue eyes, 6'4", works in finance. Please, could you please let us know how exactly this works? Dumb it down a little bit, I guess. Don't tell us exactly how it works, but I would love to know, because, like, I'm imagining, right? They buy a CDO, they buy a big stack of bonds for $100, and they don't make anything off of that, and they're expecting to either resell it or keep it until it nets them a profit based on the mortgage payments coming through. And so as of right now, they're sitting on all these CDOs that they bought for $100 that they haven't made any money off of. That's my, like, for dummies way of thinking about it. Let me know if I'm right about that or wrong, please. 6'4", blue eyes, works in finance. Male or female? I'm not going to be picky about it.
The 6'4".
Yeah, 6'4", blue eyes,
That's funny.
works in finance.
So after Peter realizes, like, oh shit, this is gonna bankrupt the company, he calls his team lead.
Yeah, Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
Nakey Bum.
Who calls his boss,
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, who calls his boss, which I think is just the owner.
No, his boss is Handsome Man from The Mentalist.
Okay. Who then calls his boss, the owner.
Scar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody meets. And mind you, when Peter figures this out, it's 2 in the morning. And everybody that survived.
It's not that late.
Oh, maybe it's midnight.
No, it's like it's after work hours. I think it's no. It's not 11 yet, because I remember Paul Bettany calls Kevin Spacey at 11
okay.
something,
Okay.
and he's like, it's 11:15 or whatever.
Hang on. Peter calls his friend who has the team lead come in, and Peter explains everything to the team lead. What's his name? Bettany.
Paul Bettany.
What's his name in that movie?
Oh,
Will.
Will.
So he calls Will,
Will
and
Emerson.
Will is like, how did you figure this out? Go find Stanley Tucci.
Because he started the project, and he was formerly the head of risk for that floor. And everybody's like,
where is he?
Because he got let go. He was part of the cuts.
The layoffs.
Yeah, the layoffs.
So while Peter and his buddy are off trying to find Stanley Tucci, Will calls in Sam, the manager, and they come in and they're like, oh shit, like, what do we do? Where are these kids? Peter and his friend. And they call the handsome man.
Simon Baker.
This is Jared, apparently. I don't know that they ever call him that. The handsome man comes in, and they have a meeting explaining everything. Jared, handsome man, realizes, oh shit, like, this is really bad. We need to call in the boss. So then they have another meeting, and at this point, it really is like, I think 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, because I think the market opens at what, 6 a.m. or something?
Well, they have their meeting at like 6:30 or something.
Well,
like
the market
salespeople
opens at like 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, New York time or something like that. So these people have been up for like 24 hours.
Yeah, trying to figure out what to do.
Trying to figure this out. It's 4 or 5 in the morning, and they know that they have to figure out what they're going to do before everybody comes in. And
right. And it has to be tonight, because it's only a matter of time before
everybody figures it out.
The rest of New York catches on to what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're making it sound, I think, a little bit more obtuse and maybe more boring than it actually is.
No, it's very interesting.
Yeah, like it's if you've ever seen A Few Good Men,
yeah,
it's sort of like that, just like very pointed discussions going back and forth. People with zingers and one-liners, and like very stressed people swearing at each other, but still with a veneer of professionalism. It's really good. It's really well written, and it's really well acted.
Yeah.
So if you know that you like that kind of a dialogue heavy film, then definitely check this out. If you
and you will learn. I felt like not a ton, but like you kind of get a look into what could have happened.
Sure.
In that way.
If you want to learn, take a look. It's in a book, Reading Rainbow. But also watch The Big Short if you really want to learn, because that I found way more informative. Also read the book, The Big Short. That's also very worth reading. That's a Michael Lewis book, by the way. He wrote Moneyball as well.
That book is really good.
Yeah, you should read The Big Short. It's good.
Okay. Well, and just based off of like Moneyball, the author does such an amazing job of making stats interesting.
Yeah, but like this is captivating for sure. Even though maybe I don't know how I feel about this, but I do feel putting myself in the shoes of these people. Like, what would I do?
Yeah.
We'll get into that in spoilers, because it's
definitely a thought, like a discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Because let's rate this, because we can't really talk about it anymore without getting into things. I really do enjoy this movie. I don't like it as much as The Big Short, I'll say, but I would give this maybe like a 7.5 to an 8.
I feel like that's
Um,
low.
is it? I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. The handsome Australian man is the only one with a tailored suit in this office of millionaires out of 10.
I think I'm gonna rate this an 8.5.
Okay.
An 8.5 buckets and buckets of money out of
Money.
10.
Oh,
Spoilers.
Parents Guide.
Oh, this is rated R, but
It's just
I think
language.
it's just language. They
Yeah.
do go to,
A gentleman's club.
yeah,
Why do they call it that?
it's misogynistic, I feel like.
Okay. But anyways, I don't think they show anything in
No.
the
I don't think there's
gentleman's
any
club.
nudity, but just be aware that it's there.
But it's really language that for to why this is rated R.
Yeah. Okay, spoilers.
Spoilers now. A thought just crossed my mind. In The Big Short, the heroes of that movie, quote unquote, the protagonists are the people that catch wind of what was going on. They basically bet against
The market falling.
the market. Yeah, they bet against these supposedly really safe CDO packages. You're not supposed to bet against bonds, and you're not supposed to bet against housing bonds, especially because they're traditionally the safest type of debt, right? And they're sort of the heroes of that movie because they figure out before everybody else and they bet against it and they're able to make a killing off of what happened. The thought just occurred to me, like, this is basically the same exact scenario. Like, they're not really making any money, but they figured out that the market was about to crash and they offloaded all their stuff to try and profit as much as they could before.
Is it really profiting though, or is it minimizing damage?
That's what it is. They
Okay.
minimized the damage because they, at a certain point they're selling at 67 cents on the dollar, I think is the last.
Or 60, yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I really liked that, the way that they did that sales call. So at a certain point,
They decide as a company, all the higher ups, all the execs, decide that they are going to offload everything, and they have
in one day.
in one day, no trades, only selling.
Yeah.
So they call in the sales team early. I think it's like six
Wait,
30.
back up. Kevin Spacey is not loving this.
Oh yeah,
What does he say? He's like, you cannot be thinking of doing you cannot be considering this, what I think you're thinking of doing. And the reason why is, it has no value. So, it becomes an ethics question a little bit. But also, if you do this, you're going to kill the market. It's over. And you're never going to get the trust back of the people that bought from you.
yeah.
You'll never be able to sell anything to them ever again. So he has reservations, and Jeremy Irons is trying to,
Persuade him because he knows that he needs Kevin Spacey to be on board so that the sales team
is on board.
is on board.
Yeah, right. It's the human element. He needs the human element, Kevin Spacey.
And so through a discussion, Kevin Spacey says, "Fine, I'll do it." Sales team comes in, ass crack of dawn,
Mm-hmm.
and they're told, like I said, sell everything, no trades. If you do well, if you sell 93% of your
What you're responsible
obligation,
for?
yeah, what you're responsible for, you will get, I think, 1.5 million.
Yeah,
If the entire team does,
93%.
everybody gets an additional 1.5 million, I think.
And he says, like, I've expressed my concerns about the ethics and the implications on the firm, not only the firm, but your careers. Because after today, you may never get another job working as a trader. So because of that, this is what the firm is offering you. Potentially 3 million if you guys do well.
Which, like, 93% of
Feels like a lot, right?
this feels so high. So then they go about the day, and what Braden was talking about is they have this kind of scene where the camera is just panning over the sales floor of people on the phone.
Well, and New York, though. It's like cutting in between the sales floor and New York.
Okay.
So it's like a time lapse, and you're seeing the sun,
Oh yeah.
get higher and then slowly start to get lower. But you only follow Will.
Who's on the phone? So you just hear the audio of his phone calls while you're seeing these different clips of the office and
Yeah.
New York and the sun and
And
all that.
and the sale starts out easy.
In the beginning of the
Everybody's
day.
buying at the beginning of the day. The next, I think it only does like 3 or 4 that you hear.
But it starts out, let's just say 7 a.m., and then we see an 11 o'clock, and then we see a 1 o'clock, and then I think a 3 o'clock phone call. And like Braden said, in the beginning of the day, it's fine. He's selling 90 cents on the dollar, and then let's just say 80 cents, and then 70, and then by 3 o'clock,
It's like 65 cents.
everybody in New York has heard that this company is offloading, and they're getting really suspicious. And I don't
Right.
know if they know exactly why, but his last phone call is this sales guy saying, what the fuck are you doing? You guys are being crazy. I'll only give you 60 cents on the dollar or
And he's
something
like,
like that
and he's 67, and then he's like 63. And then he has to call Kevin Spacey, and he's like,
to get approval for it.
I'm at 63. And he's like, get it to 65 and then hit it. And he's like, are you freaking kidding me?
That's like
that's like
a
a, and he does the quick math, and he's like, that's a $200 million loss on a
yeah,
single trade. And then Kevin Spacey's like, I understand, hit it, and then hangs up. And it was like, I really liked the way that they edited that
yeah,
sequence. I thought it was very efficient, and you got a sense of how difficult this job was that day for these
yeah,
salesmen. And I'm not saying, I don't know how I feel about it. Listen, I don't know. I don't know if what they did was right. I don't know if I would have just walked out of the company and not done it. But also, if I was a stockbroker already, I would probably be willing to do some shady business, I imagine,
yeah,
in the first place. So it's just kind of hard to imagine myself in that scenario anyways, but like, what's the right move, This is going to affect everybody. It's going to bankrupt some firms and some banks, but you can either be a part of that getting bankrupted and getting laid off and walk away with nothing, or you can offload your stuff to another bank and at least walk away with something if you get laid off.
yeah.
So it's sort of like I don't know. It's an interesting sort of.
This is what I think is the most unethical thing that they did.
Okay.
Not This is not saying that them trying to offload their whole inventory is like ethical. I don't think what they did is ethical. But the most unethical thing that they did that day, in my opinion, was again, Kevin Spacey has this meeting with the sales team in the morning and
Yeah.
says, if you hit these markers, this is what you'll make. If everybody hits these markers, this is what you'll make. Halfway through the day, before the day ends, they start letting people go.
Oh yeah.
That's so shitty.
Yeah.
They gave them an unattainable objective and then made it even more unattainable by not even letting them finish the day.
Well, I think by that point they weren't selling to anyone.
Sure, but still.
Because he says, what does he say? He says like by 2 o'clock or something, everything has to be gone.
By lunch.
Yeah, because
And then people will start talking
yeah,
about other firms.
because you're not selling after that point.
Yeah.
I was thinking, if I had a defective Switch, let's say,
The gaming console.
Nintendo Switch, I don't think that I would be okay selling that to someone. I don't think I would.
Well, you don't even have to. You had that computer that you just sold recently.
Right, and I was super upfront and like
More upfront, and like I didn't want him to lie.
kind of like graphically honest about I figured out I had no idea what was in there in the PC because it was a pre-built, and
It was whatever.
I lost the box. But I figured out everything. I uploaded a Windows image to the hard drive, and I just didn't want to screw anyone over, and I was like, listen, this isn't gonna play anything new. I'm sorry. And the guy that bought it was like, oh, I'd really love to play God of War, and I was like, I've never tried God of War on this. If I had to guess, it's not gonna run it super well. Just like I don't know. I'd never want it to come back to me.
Yeah.
So now that I'm thinking about it, I would have had a really hard time doing this.
I don't think you could have done it.
But I also don't think I would have been a stockbroker in the first place,
That too.
because I don't like being in a position where there's pressure to be dishonest and say, defend it if you want, but I have been in sales. I've worked in sales before, and there is 110% pressure to be dishonest in sales. Whatever sales, door to door,
Over the phone.
house,
Yeah.
car, and it extends obviously to stockbrokers
Yeah.
because they're sort of famously sociopathic, where they just don't care.
Yeah. Over Christmas, we were with my family, and Braden, for some reason, was asking everybody who is the actor or actress that you can,
Everybody thinks is great, but you just hate them
for some reason.
as an actor.
And most of my family said Kevin
Like
Spacey.
he came up like 4 or 5 times.
Out of 8 people, 9 people, he came up 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And every single time, it was like, oh, but like before or like after? And finally, by like the fifth person, my brother was like, you mean before, like he was accused of being, you can look this up, I'm
Uh,
not going to say it.
an offender.
Yeah, an offender. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And he was like,
Yeah.
that's so dumb. And
Every
everybody said from before.
before, like
Yeah.
I'm not sure I believe it, honestly.
I don't know.
I don't, because I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can read someone's soul
Well,
based on an acting gig that they did.
yeah. But like 4 or 5 people in my family said Kevin Spacey from before.
But also, like, I mean, it's undeniable that guy is a freaking acting force.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah.
In this movie, when he speaks, he just like commands
Everybody's attention.
interest,
Yeah.
and I'm like hanging on his every word.
Yeah.
He could be like reading the dictionary, and I'd be like, wow, this means something. You know what I mean? Stanley Tucci kind of has a couple of lines like that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
But I will always say, we will always say this on this podcast, we are separating the person from the character. We are
right.
saying they are an amazing actor.
Art from artist.
Right. We will always say that, and that's how we have decided to be okay with things.
Right.
What they did, who they are, I don't want to get into,
Well,
But them as an
I'm also 100% sure he's not the last one.
right.
You know, there will be someone else that I love as an actor or an
Yeah.
actress that stuff will come out and you'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm glad I never attached my opinion of their acting and like muddled that with my opinion of their character." Like it's just kind of you kind of have to do that because you never know.
Yeah.
But also, you know, if everybody's got such a great radar for creeps, then I challenge them to identify the next creep and be right.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they can't. Like it's you're full of shit. You maybe you can maybe cut that.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I found this really interesting, and it's just drama. It's total drama action, right?
Total Drama Island.
Right. Are you done? Do you have
Yeah,
anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. I finished a book. I forgot that I finished this. It's called The Wee Free Men by Terry Pratchett. And for those of you that don't know, Terry Pratchett was a English novelist. He co-authored Good Omens
Oh,
with Neil Gaiman. And I'd read a bunch of Neil Gaiman stuff, but I'd never read anything by Terry Pratchett. And if you go on to Reddit, for example, and see people talking about Good Omens, a lot of people will say it's really more Terry Pratchett's book than it is Neil Gaiman's book, especially now with the allegations against Neil Gaiman. People are very much on the side of Terry Pratchett.
wait. So they say that it's Neil Gaiman's book, or it's Terry
No, they
Pratchett's
say
book?
it's more Terry Pratchett's
Oh,
book
because you said Neil Gaiman.
than it is Neil Gaiman's book.
Oh,
So I wanted to read a Terry Pratchett novel, and I wanted to read one that was self-contained because I kind of have a peeve about series. I don't like feeling like I'm locked into an 8 book thing. But I ended up reading the first book in a series, so
oh, it wasn't self-contained.
no. So this is part of the Discworld series, and it's about this little girl named Tiffany Aching, and she's a farm girl, and her brother gets kidnapped. Her brother has kind of he's got some of the tism, and he gets kidnapped by this fairy queen basically. And she's a really bright girl, very smart. She has the potential to become a witch, a magic user. I don't remember exactly how this happens, but Okay, so Tiffany is with her brother at a river, and then this monster shows up in the river, and she whacks the monster with a frying pan, and
Like Tangled.
yeah, basically beats it away. And these little tiny Scottish guys see like are floating down the river, and she sees them and hears them talk, and then they disappear. And these are the wee free men, but they're called the Knack McFeagles, and they're very small, but they're very strong.
When you say small, what do you mean by that?
Like they're tiny,
Right, but like how big? Like 4 inches or like
like
4 feet?
like this big,
Uh,
4 inches,
that's not 4 inches.
4 inches.
4 inches is like this.
Yeah, they're like a couple of inch tall people,
Okay.
but they're extremely strong and they're extremely tough and they're very fast. So so like um so if they don't want you to see them, you will not see them. They're very sneaky.
Because they're fat. Oh, because they're sneaky, not because they're fast.
Well, and that basically she gets in with the Knack McFeagles, which is super rare because they don't like big people.
Her and her brother.
No, just her because she's trying to find her brother.
Oh,
And she ends up becoming like the leader of this clan of Knack McFeagles, and she and they go on a hunt for her brother, who's been taken to the land of fairy tales basically, and like fairy tales are starting to bleed into the real world, and the queen of fairyland is going to try and take over her world, and the queen is the one that has stolen her brother. Anyway, it's like a fantasy whole fantasy story, and it's good. It's
adventure.
yeah, it's interesting. I'll admit that I took a very long time in reading this book, so my retention of all the details of what happened is not great, and I'll admit it. I'll admit it. But I still think that there's an interesting series here, and I actually started the second book, and
Oh,
I'm planning to just read this, just listen to it consistently, so I don't get lost like I did
the first one.
with the Wee Free Men. But this is like a really funny, like if you've read Good Omens, there's a lot of that sort of DNA in this book. But I would say also that at least the first one is totally kid friendly, which
Oh, there's
is
no language.
no, which is
Oh,
awesome. But it's also like because it has that sort of sardonic, sarcastic Good Omens style humor. It's also something that adults can enjoy. I'll give you an example. How
please.
about I do that? There is this. So Tiffany meets a witch early on in the book, and this witch realizes that the fairy queen is starting to, enter Tiffany's world, and she's like, "Oh, this is a problem. I'm gonna go try and get some help, but in the meantime, I'll leave you with my talking toad that I have."
The main character says
The
this.
witch.
Oh,
So the witch has a talking toad, and the toad used to be a human, but he doesn't remember anything about his former life.
okay.
But the witch leaves the toad with Tiffany. And throughout the book, the toad he makes comments like when Tiffany goes into where the Knack McFeagles live, they live in this like mound, but it's really small, right?
Yeah.
Too small for her. And the frog is like, or the toad is like, if you were to stand up and bang your head against the ceiling, you definitely have grounds for, a complaint. And then he'll be like, I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry. And he makes like multiple comments like that throughout the book, and you're like, okay, I think this guy was a lawyer before he was a frog. And one thing about the Knack McFeagles is they're very afraid of lawyers because they're afraid of words because they don't understand them.
Like big words and
Just words. They don't like writing and reading, and important, scary sounding words really freak them out. And at a certain point when they're in fairyland, the fairy queen knows this, and she sends lawyers
that's
to,
so
because
funny.
like the Knack McFeagles they love to fight. They're stereotypically Scottish. They love to get drunk and fight. And if they can't fight someone else, they'll fight each other, and they love to steal things. And so like, they're just little hellions, just forces of nature. At a certain point, to stop them, the queen sends out lawyers, and they're like they're saying things in Latin and stuff, and the Knack McFeagles are so scared, and they retreat. And then the frog's like, I remember what I was before I was a frog. I was a lawyer. And then he starts lawyering back. And then the Knack McFeagles are like, oh, look at that. We've got one on our side now. You can't get us anymore. And it's just like, just stuff like that. It's sort of absurd, but it's hilarious and it's endearing and it's fun. By the way, the Toad ends up staying with the Knack McFeagle clan at the end of the book, so now they have their own lawyer that can even fit inside their little home.
That's awesome.
So it's a really fun book. But just because I didn't really pay that much attention to it, I can't say that I enjoyed it a ton. But I am liking this second book a lot.
Okay.
Now that I'm really
Focusing.
focusing, locking in, as it were.
Yeah.
So I think I would give the We Free Men like a 7. I'm sure that I would like it more if I read it again, but I'll give it a 7 Rob Anybody's out of 10. That's one of their names. His name
Nice.
is Rob Anybody.
Wait, so did you feel like people were telling the truth that what's the author's name?
Terry Pratchet.
Terry Pratchett is Good Omens?
I think that they both have such a similar way of writing humor that I think it's kind of nonsense to
Okay.
attribute more credit to one than the other. They're just like every time the Knack McFeagles say something, it's really funny. One of their names is not as big as Big Jock, but bigger than Little Jock Jock. That's his name. Like their names are very descriptive
That's
about who they
funny.
are.
I saw this meme one time that was like, we have a cat named Matt. I can't remember what the cat's name was, it doesn't matter. But then my sister started dating someone named Matt after we already had the cat. And so we call the boyfriend Human Matt. And he always gets bugged because why can't we call the cat Cat Matt instead of him Human Matt?
Cat Matt was there first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what that reminded me of.
And like Tiffany's trying to learn his name and she calls him Jock and he's like, hey, it's not Jock, it's not as big as Big Jock but bigger than Little Jock Jock. And then she's like, okay, not as big as Big Jock but bigger than Little Jock. You almost had it, but it's not as big as Big Jock but bigger than Little Jock. And they're just funny. Like they're just funny. And it's good. It's a fun little story. So give it a read. If you're worried about maybe if you don't trust me about the kid thing, then give it a read yourself. But I think it's perfectly safe for kids.
Well, I don't know that we have anything to share of what we're gonna have coming up.
Yeah, we'll pick one. Maybe Wallace and Gromit.
I was thinking about Chaos Walking.
No.
Okay.
Maybe Sing Sing.
Oh, Flow.
Oh, we need to watch that.
Okay, so maybe Wallace and Gromit or Flow or
Maybe
Sing
both.
Sing.
Memoir of a Snail we need to watch still.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one too. In the future, soon-ish, not next episode, Severance Season 1.
Yeah.
We're making our way through it. Did you release a video this week? Or last week?
Yeah, today actually.
Okay.
Day of recording, but there will be another one next Wednesday too about Castlevania Nocturne Season 1.
So just check out our YouTube channel for some of those. Again, Braden explained this last week, but he's separated video essays and podcast episodes on our homepage. So take a look through the video essays because Braden's been putting out some pretty good videos on there. Only on YouTube. If you're listening on other platforms, those are only on YouTube, the video essays.
Right.
But yeah. Anything else?
Nay.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.